Liz Wheeler. Liz wrote to me early today. Let me see if I can. May I quote you here, Liz?
Yes, you may. Thanks for having me, Glenn.
Okay. Yeah, you bet. She said, give me one good reason why I shouldn't scream for Pam Bondi to be fired today. And this was at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I said, I'm sleepy, but I don't think I can. I don't think I can give you a reason not to call for her firing today. But I want you to explain, why do you feel this way?
It's not something that I say lightly. I didn't say it immediately after the White House Epstein binder debacle. And I want to very prudently and judiciously make this case to you today, and to make this case to President Trump too, because Pam Bondi has become a liability to his administration, despite her loyalty in other areas. So let's start with the announcement from the Department of Justice last night. A lot of us have a lot of questions about this announcement. It just doesn't ring true with a lot of us. We see a lot of evidence before our eyes that contradicts what we're being told without evidence to believe by the FBI and the Department of Justice. And it grates on us because, like you mentioned, we are friends with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. They're the good guys. We trust them. And yet we have to use our critical thinking faculties and look at the evidence before our eyes. So it smells fishy. You'll notice it says nothing about whether Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence asset, which, as you mentioned, Alex Acosta, the attorney who cut the sweetheart deal originally with Epstein, said he was before Acosta's emails mysteriously disappeared. So we have questions about that. There are also outstanding, important questions about Kash Patel and Dan Bongino's definitive pronouncement that Epstein killed himself. I'm sorry, I don't think the video that they released proves as definitively as they were stating that case, because it doesn't show what was happening inside the cell. It just shows the cell door. We don't actually see him kill himself, so that doesn't prove anything.
We know that nobody came in or
through
left.
that door. Well,
where are they going to go through the little bars? I mean,
no, I don't know
comes in.
I don't know what the internal of that cell looks like. I don't know if they have fire escape routes. I don't know if they have adjoining doors. I don't know if they have emergency exits. I don't know if that video was doctored or not. I don't know enough about that to simply take that one piece of evidence.
So that's a good
and say, okay,
that's a good point. Just show us the room. Show us what's inside the room.
Yes.
I think
we need more
reasonable.
evidence. Okay. One piece of evidence. I mean, it's great. I'm glad they released that. It's not enough.
Yeah.
The other thing, I wonder, too, if Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are relying too much on the FBI's prior investigations, assuming that the FBI of old is a reliable narrator. I don't know who conducted those investigations or if it was done soundly. I doubt it was done soundly.
May I just interject here? I talked to Dan Bongino a few weeks ago about this off air, and he said, Glenn, we are turning over every stone. We are going to get to the bottom of it. He led me to believe that, and I believed him, and I still do, that he was using new resources, opening the investigation in a new way, following it closely. And I do believe Dan Bongino is one of the good guys.
I do, too. And I've been told the same thing by very high-ranking officials at the FBI who I trust. They're trustworthy people. I do think that it might not be possible at this point to piece together everything because we know that there have been reports of evidence destruction. So my issue with that definitive statement was the definitive nature of it, that this 100% happened this way. Epstein killed himself, instead of saying we don't have enough evidence to piece this together or the evidence we have points to this. All that being said, though, I want to talk about what happened last night, because this brings us to Attorney General Pam Bondi, who just months ago said she had the Epstein client list on her desk. Glenn, I went back and looked at that video, the clip of her on Fox News again this morning, to make sure that there was not context that I was lacking, that there was not bungled phraseology, maybe nerves being on air. I went back and listened to it. She said definitively she had the Epstein client list on her desk. Now, fast forward to yesterday, she says that it doesn't exist, that they don't have it. That is a really big problem. If I'm President Trump today...
Let me play this from Bondi. This is back in February. Here is the actual statement she made. Listen.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check back with you.
Okay, so now let me take you back to Kash Patel because something similar was said to me. Here he is, cut 12. So who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is, I mean, there's...
Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI. Just like the manifesto from the Nashville school shooting of the Catholic school.
Yeah.
We still haven't seen that, right? It's not the Nashville police or PD saying we don't want this out. The FBI airmailed into that operation and said this is not getting out. Because they do that because this is another government gangster operation. All these local law enforcement communities get funding from the DOJ and FBI for local programs. And if you don't cooperate, you're not getting your $1 million for this, and you're not getting and that's a lot of money to these local districts. That's how they play the game. That's why you don't have a Black Book or the manifesto.
But the Black Book, it's not just sitting. I mean, that's Hoover power times 10.
And to me, that's a thing I think President Trump should run on. On day one, roll out the Black Book. And not just that. On day one, roll out all of the text messaging communications we were told were deleted. On day one, play the rest of the video of the pipe bomber. On day, one of the reforms I talk about in government gangsters is you need a central node to be continuously declassifying. This is another thing they do. They overclassify. And I'm telling you, as a former number 2 in the IC, they overclassify 50% of the stuff there to protect the deep state. Oh, no, you can't see that. Nothing to see here. Gina was a master at it, of doing it. And we still haven't seen half of the Russiagate report that we wrote. Still under lock and key on how the ICA was originally constructed. We put 10,000 man hours against John Brennan's team that did it. And we found out why they came up with their bogus conclusion. But we couldn't sell it to the world because we couldn't talk about it. And the government gangsters came in and buried it. All of these things, there needs to be a continuing central power, whether it's the White House or offsite, that says every request that comes in, just right out the door, as long as it's not a major threat to national security.
Liz, they're both very clear. It existed, but Pam Bondi did not say she had any names in it. She kind of made me feel like she hadn't really even looked at it. Kash Patel gave me the impression he had seen it, or at least he knew about it. So how do we go from here?
Listen, people care deeply about the Epstein Files because there was a grisly crime that we know for a fact was committed. Epstein was convicted of that. It wasn't speculative. He was convicted of it. People feel that there's evidence of a cover-up. We're not inventing a conspiracy. There's evidence of a cover-up of this crime. Pam Bondi, as Attorney General, has exacerbated this trust. And it gives me no pleasure to say this because I like to give the benefit of the doubt to people that are on our side. But going back to that day at the White House in February, I haven't told this part of the story before. Attorney General Pam Bondi, when we met with her, we weren't at the White House to meet with her. We just met with her while we were there. Pam Bondi bragged to us about making that cover sheet on the binder, the one that read the most transparent administration in history. She said she had made it. She had printed it. She was proud of it. She placed it on that binder. Going to call that a severe lack of judgment would be the understatement of the year. There is no way in my mind, and I have tried every way to Sunday to square that behavior with the announcement that we got last night from the Department of Justice. Pam Bondi told us at the time, she said, I requested the Epstein files. The files in the binder were the ones given to me. Nothing was in them, she told us at the time. Then a whistleblower called her, she told us, and said the SDNY was hiding other files. That's the story, she told us, that there's been a deep state cover-up. So at the time, after we were given these binders, we waited, right? You give your side the benefit of the doubt. Maybe Pam Bondi will come up with the goods, even though the rollout was botched, to say the least. But this is another thing I have not discussed publicly before. She said she had not seen the SDNY documents at the time that she was telling us about them. I asked her directly that day in the White House. When she said a whistleblower told us about these truckloads of SDNY documents, I said, have you seen them? She said, no, she sent the request and they're bringing them to her. So contextualizing all of this, suddenly this seems like unforgivable behavior. How could she give the American people, not just me, I don't care about how this impacts me, how could she give the American people those phase 1 binders that contains nothing, while at the same time bragging about the cover sheet that she made, the most transparent administration in history, and tell us that the SDNY had the real goods, that the binder was just proof of a deep state cover-up? That was the real story, she told us, only now to say, sorry, there's actually nothing. So it leaves us with this situation. What are the options? The options as, well, was she herself set up by some deep state FBI career officials trying to make a fool of her? It's possible, maybe even probable.
Possible.
But here's the thing. If you are smart, if you are savvy, if you are sharp enough to be the Attorney General of the United States, you verify such information. You don't assume its veracity and publicize it for clicks. And that's what she did. So then we get to the point that we think, okay, well, what does this say about her judgment? Is she just click thirsty? Is she wanting to be a Fox News star? Did she get out over her skis trying to make news, being, a MAGA champion with those binders that maybe she had not verified the contents of, and she definitely hadn't verified the contents of the SDNY truckloads? You can't square this announcement with the binders, the announcement yesterday with the binders in February, unless you allow for the idea that Pam Bondi could be operating in a way that is unacceptable. Went on Fox News, said she had a client list on her desk to review when she actually hadn't looked at the documents and was just saying that to be a television star. I say this in somewhat sorrowfully. If I'm President Trump, I would not tolerate this behavior anymore. She has become a liability to his administration. I think the administration is probably just now coming to the realization of how much goodwill this whole debacle has cost them with their voters. And Pam Bondi is not worth it. She's a liability. It's time to move on.